Welcome, guys. We're here with another episode of the Truth Project podcast. Excited for today. We've got some awesome content for you guys. But before we get started, I want to make sure that you guys know where to send your questions, because remember, in the last episode, this is for engagement. This is for creating discussion outside of this podcast. And man, I really want to be bombarded with questions. I would love to sit down. I will also respond as you send them. I won't just get them and just sit there and then wait till the next podcast to answer them. I will respond directly to your questions. I'm excited about that, and would love to receive whatever you have. It doesn't matter. Tell your friends. What is it? Like, subscribe, share this video.
All the stuff.
All the stuff. Yeah, we'd love for you to tell your friends. And like I said, discuss, because I know you guys are super busy with sports, football, baseball, tennis, all the above, and also school. So we'd love for you to just discuss and send us your questions outside of service. So yeah, this is what this is about. But today I am with an amazing friend and a brother, a guy that has mentored me, has taught me a lot, and also a brother from the same state.
Gang.
Represent from Mississippi, from the SIP, way down south. Heard that. Let's go. We got Lo Alamon here with us on the podcast. I remember my first Edge camp. Was it 2 years ago that we met, or was it? I
think it was 2 years ago.
Okay, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Did you come to both Edge camps I was there, or was it just the first one?
I think it was just the first one.
Okay.
And then the next year I came to Big Chill.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And blew me out the water with that.
You're a little flatterer, cuz. Just chill out.
Jeez. I mean, I was sitting there, I was like, man, who's this guy? I'm not into poetry that much. All of a sudden, this man gets on stage and just
spitting Shakespeare, cuz. Spitting that Shakespeare. Yeah, that's what it was.
Let's go. Man, that's awesome, man. Super excited. Thanks for being here today.
For sure, fam. It's always fun to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And if it's helpful, to share it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, because I know you've got a cool project with this book you're coming out with, and with poetry. And man, tell me about that. What does that look like? How has this journey been? What is your story with music and dealing with culture, and what does that look like personally?
Sure. Yeah. So when I was some inappropriate age, probably like 9 years old.
Okay.
I watched 8 Mile. It came out.
Yes.
I was in fourth grade.
Movie.
However old you are when you're in fourth grade, I think 9 or 10, something like that.
Yeah.
And I watched the movie,
Okay.
and I'm like, oh snap, like bars, cuz. Like,
Okay.
so
Yes.
me and my cousin would like do battle
And
rap.
that was the real deal, right?
Yeah.
But
that was like Detroit rap. So
Okay.
I was living in LA at the
Okay.
time when I first
Okay.
watched it. So I started seeing like battle rap and everything. And LA didn't really have a battle rap scene. So me and my
Yeah.
cousins were just like, rapping around and being stupid. And then 3 or 4 years ago, Wildin' Out came out. Remember that? Nick Cannon?
yes,
Like when it
yes.
first
You
got
were
popped off.
watching
Man, yeah. When it first got popped off though, it was like around 2003 or 4, maybe something like that.
okay.
And we had just moved to Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And so same thing, me and cousins just hanging out the house rapping. And I didn't think I was good at it.
Yeah.
Like, and I probably wasn't. But I went to school one day, and because I had like watched like 8 Mile and Wildin' Out and stuff like that, we had like a little rap battle in between football practice.
Yeah. Were y'all playing the drums? Or
Oh, you know it, with the stick, yeah. That's the move.
Okay.
But so I started like smoking people and rapping,
okay.
and built a little reputation for like having bars or whatever. I go back and listen to my stuff. I was straight trash. But
Yeah.
when you're in middle school, everything's good.
Yeah, for sure. And your mom was like,
in my mind,
oh my gosh,
yeah, I'm killing this.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of your mama jokes that rhyme. That's all it was. So I was super into hip hop culture from early on, and then like not just being somebody who listened to it, but somebody who was doing it. Like, and you don't think about this as a kid, but you're like creating something, right? Like you're writing, you're being creative, you're thinking of like how can I, basically make fun of somebody with lyrics. And even though that's like juvenile and whatever, like at the same time, it was really formative for me because like now I get to write and it's the same approach, right? I'm being creative. And now even though it's postured towards God, it still has that same feel of I have to make sure it speaks to people as well. And so, you're battling somebody You don't want him to think you're better than him. You need the crowd to think you're better.
Okay.
So that's a part of what culture is, right? It's the opinions of the masses that you're trying to sway.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, really immersed in that hip hop culture early on. Made a few little projects here or there.
Yeah.
I thought I was so dope.
Yeah.
Like
Now
back
projects in high school or
high school and college.
Okay.
But then so it was super arrogant, super prideful. The whole lane of rapping for me back then was pretty trash.
Yeah.
But I then met Jesus.
Okay.
You know, college.
He changes just a little, doesn't he?
Well, his plan for change is probably great.
Yeah.
I was super immature with it. So when I first started following Jesus, you know what I'm saying? I was 19, sophomore in college.
Yep.
And my initial thinking was all that old stuff I can't do no more. Like rap gotta go, cussing gotta go. Girls gotta go, like everything goes.
Yeah.
And the more I started maturing in my faith, I was encouraged by other people really to say, hey, God isn't just about erasing your identity, he's about giving you an identity.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And so, it went from being take out all the things that make you versus let God redeem and repurpose those things. So he has space for lyrics, he has space for relationship, he has space for whatever. So
that's it.
So that turned into, poetry. Was with a group of friends that was my discipling community, and they all just happened to be artists. And one of my good friends, April, she was like, hey, you should try writing some poetry instead of rapping. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of lame, and I ain't really feeling it. But then I saw this dude do it, and he started like, girls was like going crazy about it. So I'm like, I'll try it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was a similar vibe, like just same thing as rapping, just having a different kind of cadence. And I ended up doing it. It was all right.
Yeah.
Did it some more. And then once Jesus began to start change things, it was like, oh, snap, I can do this as a part of worship. And I always connected more with, you know what I'm saying, like contemplative worship. Like I ain't trying to hate on like Bethel or nothing like that, but I don't, you know what I'm saying?
Right. It's different. Yeah. And it's a style. It's a different style. So,
and it's more unique to me. I felt like God wanted me as me. And I'm like 98% like, all holy and stuff, like 2% hood still. And so giving him that whole thing. I felt like it was a more natural expression of worship for me.
Cool.
And so it began to be like a thing I could minister with, and just ended up being a dope part of the journey.
Man, that's so good. I love what you said about the redemptive part of it. He gives us a new identity. He doesn't necessarily say, hey, here's a list of rules. I want you to follow these because this is what I said do.
Right.
He really says like, hey, here's your new identity. Live. Yes, you have a past, so live with it.
Yep.
Learn from it. I mean, because what else can you do? Like we've made decisions. Yes, like we might regret some of them, but through art, if it's poetry, if it's music, if it's sports, man, redemptify those things. And that's what I mean by like the infiltrating society part. I know I mentioned it last podcast, but specifically what that means in detail is being able to have that new identity. Yeah. That's a perfect word for that. Is Jesus comes in and says, hey, here's your new identity. Live in this in your daily lives and worship me daily.
Yeah.
And it's not like you have to sit down and say, okay, I have to worship Jesus now.
Yeah.
It's like it becomes natural.
Natural and just more like, not just natural. I think natural is a really good word.
Okay.
But also like maybe authentic and probably more true to who Christ actually is. Mm-hmm. Like when we think of Jesus, we tend to think of like this, bland, white bread, Spock kind of emotionless person.
Yeah.
And throughout scripture, he has feelings and emotions, and he gets tired and hungry. Like he's a human. Yes. He's a real person. Yes. And the way that scripture is even given to us, it's the stories of real people, like God doing supernatural things with natural folks, and God moving in culture and moving in perspective and moving in relationships.
Yeah. So specifically talking on music, man, first, what's the difference between poetry and music? Why has poetry that? Because you even said it yourself, like poetry's different. It's not something I could see myself doing, but you found yourself in it because of that one, that, I don't know, it was like an example where somebody you saw that you're like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
What is the difference? Why does poetry kind of have this bad rap over, we joked about earlier, Shakespeare, where like poetry and art of that sort was huge back then. Yeah. Now, I guess because of Spotify, Apple Music, the music industry kind of runs, I guess you could say, the culture in a certain way. So How do those kind of level up with each other?
It's a weird thing, man, because when you think about it, at a base sense, there's very little amounts of music that you take in that does not have poetry to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
for sure.
poetry is ingrained in so much of the art that we take in. It's just like a raw form of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like the best analogy I can think of is like there's no matter what you do in the day, no matter what you eat in the day, you're gonna eat one of 4 things: beef, chicken, you know what I'm saying, fish, whatever.
Or ramen noodles if you're in college.
Or ramen noodles. I don't fool with the pork. That's the devil's meat. But yeah, whatever. You go one of 4 things.
Yeah.
And we can have a million meals based around those simple 4 things. So what you do with the thing is what makes it what it ends up being. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So same thing with poetry. Like poetry is the thing. But some people take that poetry and they put it in plays. Some people take that poetry and they put it in rap music or put it in Taylor Swift or whatever it is. And so it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
Poetry's the substance. It's what you do with it. So for me, I recognize that ain't nobody eating bland chicken.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it needs some seasoning.
You need some Tony Satcheries, boy.
Come on now.
Tony Satcheries.
But with the same thing, is like, all right, if this is the thing, how I flavor it, how I season it, how I come about it, it's all based upon, the tool. So I can listen to some music that has whack lines to it. But the beat is dope, the vibe is dope, the culture around it is dope. And so it's almost like, you got some bad chicken, but you season the heck out of it. What do you have? You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing with poetry. Like it's the substance. And what I care about is, how do I take the substance and I'll give it whatever art form it does. I'll rap sometimes. Sometimes I'll do spoken word. Sometimes I'll write it down. But either way, it's like, this is the thing. I got to figure out how to package it to people that receive it.
Yeah. Well, and you hit on something that I want to move into is that aspect of like the vibe around the music.
Yeah.
Would you say that's kind of the biggest thing? Because a lot of kids tell me how like, man, this beat is sick. This vibe is why I listen to it.
Yeah.
But there's still lyrics to it. So is there a relationship between the lyrics and the beat to where if you're all about the beat and you just want to hear the beat, can you realistically just listen to the beat and not let the lyrics affect you?
Not at all.
Okay.
And here's how I know that. And this is like on a culture tip. We tend to think about rap music solely within America. But hip hop has like gone insane. It's literally the new pop, right? Like it's spread so far that there are countries that aren't primarily English speaking countries that still listen to our music.
Yes.
On the flip side though, German rap is taking off like crazy. Russians are rapping now. It's insane. There's actually a dude right now. It's like it's popping right now because of a TikTok video.
Shocker.
Right. But this dude got a song. It's completely in Russian. Like no one knows what he's saying, but people are still like listening to it. So here's the thing. That works for TikTok. No one's actually listening to the song. They just listen to it on TikTok because it's a vibe.
Right.
But the artists don't transition over from Russia or from Germany. American artists do because English is spoken all over the world, but because we don't actually speak those languages, we care about the words. Even if we don't care primarily about the words, we care about understanding. And so music is really about connection. How do I connect my emotion or my energy to that person?
Gotcha.
And if I can't hear your words, it don't connect the same way. So even if you primarily listen for the beat, you care about what's being said. Like at least in some sense, you need to connect. That's the whole point of music.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's so good because because that's a struggle with the church. Like when I was a kid and I was listening to this music, when Drake started getting big, because what show was he? A lot of people
Degrassi,
forget. That's what it was.
Degrassi Drake, 07, 08, yeah.
He was on a TV show, and then now look at where this cat is.
His pop was different. I remember when he first popped, because he was mixtape Drake for a while.
Yeah, because he was with Lil Wayne. He was
even before that. Before that,
okay.
He had a couple of projects that he put out, and they weren't like whack, but they were like, it was Degrassi Drake. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it wasn't the same dude.
For sure.
And
we all start somewhere.
Yeah. But when he popped, I was in California when it happened. I was hanging out with my fam, and he had a song, Baby You My Everything, You All That One. Once that hit on the radio, they played it all summer long. But once he popped, it was wild because that was around the time that Kanye was shaping what hip hop was gonna do. Lil Wayne was shaping what hip hop was gonna do, and so it started becoming a global thing right when he hit. And so it kind of makes sense that he's this like insane artist because he kind of rode the wave of where hip hop was.
Yeah.
So take that for the same things like the spread of the church. The church spread in a really interesting dynamic. You had an illiterate culture; people couldn't read. But you have these artists that show up and they're like, oh, we'll paint pictures on the cathedrals. So even though the people can't read, they can see the art and they'll connect with the story of God. Art has always been kind of this thing that pushes the next wave of whatever it is. So the gospel was riding that wave before. It kind of needs to do the same thing again to recognize, hey, people are looking to connect and maybe not coming into your church, but how do you infiltrate culture? How do you be intentional with the art that you're digesting and you're putting out? Because that's how we share the gospel.
So let me ask this then. That's getting on that point. But could you see that like the cathedral type art? Because you said poetry is the substance in music, is in other things.
Yeah.
Poetry is just what is the lyrics. It's in everything.
Yeah.
So on that with that context, like the cathedral artwork that was on the cathedrals, could you see music being that for all our culture now? Does that make sense?
I think it has to be. I think in some ways it is loosely.
Okay.
So you have artists who are like, most folks don't know this, but like Lecrae was the #1 artist in America for several years straight. Not because, you know what I'm saying, he was like doing the whole secular thing.
Yeah.
It's simply because the people who had buying power, like people who were like downloading or going and buying CDs, he had an insane amount of sales that you could not ignore him. So even though it was limited to just being in, you know what I'm saying, church settings, he kind of got such a hype to him that he started working with, you know, secular artists and started working with like, getting on secular radios and everything. I don't always love the approach, but I do respect that, you know, for us who care about the gospel, and Paul says this, right? He's like, if the gospel's preached for whatever reason, whether people are hating on me, whether people like it or whatever, if it's preached, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
And
that's a struggle of mine, man. Like trying to really let that verse, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Really trying to let that verse really sink deep into my soul, really, because it's easy to point fingers. It's like he's doing this wrong, he's doing that wrong.
Yeah.
And, you know, because also the verse, you know, before you, you know, talk to others, you got to work on the plank in your own.
Come on.
You know what
Luke
I'm saying?
6, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just this balance, because here's the thing too, what I kind of going into this route is like, you have rappers like Gunna, and you have rappers as well as Travis Scott.
Yeah.
Which I watched his documentary, and he prays before his concerts, and I looked at that, and even myself, I was like, oh, cool. I'm gonna listen to his music more because he's praying. Or Gunna, take him for example. I saw a video where it was like the 10 essentials of Gunna. It's on GQ on their YouTube or whatever, and he has his first essential is a Bible. Pulls it out, and it's kind of like a setting like this, right? It's just him, pulls out his Bible, and he starts talking about how, like, what this means to him. And it's his first essential. It's the first one he thought about. But then later on in the video, he's pulling out wads of cash. He's pulling out his car keys with his caddy, the Lambo.
Yeah.
He's got his watches. He literally has probably $100,000 worth of watches, and there was like 4 of them. He pulls it out of his little case. Opens it
he
out
ain't
of his
got this
bag.
though. What's up, cuz?
Oh yeah, that's that Walmart special.
Come
for
on,
sure.
man.
That's the Walmart special.
Get
right
at me.
here, right there for sure. Tell time with it.
Get at
Tell
me.
time with it. So how do we deal with that? Of like, yes, you have the Lecrae, you have the KB, which we'll kind of get on in a minute because that's my guy.
Yeah.
Oh man. His new project is amazing.
Yeah.
But you have people like KB, Lecrae, and even Chance the Rapper, Justin Bieber, Kanye, who have come out and they're like, you know, I'm going to be labeled as the new identity as this Jesus follower, and I'm going to portray my music in that way. You know, people like Justin Bieber and Chance the Rapper might not say Jesus in every line, but Lecrae and KB have that more vibe of doing that. Yeah. But then you have people like Gunna and Travis Scott. Like, how do we deal with that as people trying to infiltrate society?
So a couple things, man. First, I'd say the church has always, you know, looked for kind of poster boys or poster kids for the new thing. Yeah. And so we've made terrible mistakes with that. Mm-hmm. Like we kind of killed the philosopher because the dude thought the earth was round. You know what I'm saying? And so we want to make examples of the right or wrong. It's like, you are totally wrong. I got to set an example. You're totally right. We got to use you as an example. Yeah. And Paul's language is imitate me as I imitate Christ. Like the parts that I imitate Christ on, follow my example. If I ain't imitating Christ in this, don't follow that.
Come on.
You know, and sometimes he's even intentional about saying, like, this is my opinion. This is just me thinking this. Like, I don't think women should do X, Y, or Z. That's me though. That's him saying that. But then he'll say, like, this is from the Lord, like, follow this. And so I think as followers of Jesus, we have to kind of think more, how am I looking like Jesus, not how am I looking like the culture? Because Jesus has this weird vibe about him to where he comes and he doesn't fit within anyone's perspective of culture, and yet invites everyone in the culture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that's what we do. At the same time, I think as it pertains just to music, it's really important that we kind of like, you think like Proverbs, like guard your heart above all else. Yeah. And that's not to say that you can't listen to no kind of music. Yeah. But there should be some safeguards about what I let into me. You know. Yeah. My uncle, his name Brent Jones. He is an insane musician. Like, oh man, he's crazy. He just won a Billboard he did the production on Trolls 2.
Oh, get out of here.
He's the guy. Like,
that's so sick.
He's the guy. That Justin Timberlake, Anderson .Paak joint, like that's him.
What the heck?
So, but but here's the thing though. So, but he's working at Hollywood. Like people are calling him. If you look up who he is, like he's a gospel artist. Like, he's just so dope with music that Hollywood comes to him. You know what I'm saying? Like not the other way around. He's not trying to break into Hollywood. Yeah. He's just so good at what he's good at that Hollywood comes to him for it. Now, before he was just an artist, he was working at a church. I want to say it was in Seattle, Washington.
Oh, come on. Represent.
Yeah.
Represent.
Well, I mean, Sean's not here with the whole Seahawks thing. But my guy was like, part of one of the biggest black churches there. And you know what I'm saying? He was like the minister of music. So basically like Mark Swayze before.
Right. Wait, who's Mark Swayze?
He's some dude.
He's some guy.
Yeah. But like he's a chocolate Mark Swayze, right?
Black yeah. There you go. Yeah, for sure.
So, but his job, like, so the church comes to him and says, hey man, we're not getting a lot of, youth attendance. We need, some kind of artist to bring all the kids. And this is like back in 2000, early 2000s. Yeah. And he was like, okay, well, there's a couple of, Christian hip hop artists that are emerging. Kids love the rap scene and all that stuff. Yeah. He was like, I saw somebody on the YouTubes, and I was like, any old person saying the YouTubes probably not in touch. And the church was like, nah, we want somebody that's like in the streets, but also loves the Lord. And they were like, we don't. The church is so far removed from the culture, they don't know who to get. So they asked my uncle, find us an artist. He was like, all right, well, I'll bring you this guy. He said, no. I'll bring you this guy. He said, no. They were like, we hear this song on the radio all the time. It's called Jesus Walks. Apparently some rappers making a gospel song, playing it in the clubs. And my uncle was like, Kanye West? Like, yeah, this is 03 Kanye. Yeah, this isn't Chick-fil-A Kanye.
Yeah,
this is 03 Kanye. And so at the time, Kanye had Jesus Walks and a song about his grandma. Those are the only two songs he had that wasn't like explicitly cussing folks out.
Right.
And he was like, hey man, see if y'all can get Kanye to come to the church. He came. They booked him.
Get out of here.
I think at the time he was asking for like 30K. Like Kanye was big, but not big.
Right.
And he came to the church and he did the two songs 8 times. Because that's the only ones he could do. Yeah. But the church was so far removed, they thought, oh, he said Jesus in a song, he must be for the gospel. The church had no hand in the culture to know who this dude is. Yeah. It was removed from the culture.
Yeah.
And
Good intentions.
Right. But you can't and so Jesus says that, he's like, I have placed you in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like you're in it. Not to be of it, but you're in the world, right?
So good.
If we're not actually involved in the culture, we don't even know what we're asking for. We don't know how to reach people because we're not even there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You bring a Kanye in expecting him to share the gospel. You don't know the culture to know that he's not actually for the gospel. He's figuring it out. And over the next decade, we realized he was figuring it out. Like he ain't know. You know what I'm saying? Same with Chance.
Sure.
Chance, I think, is the homie. Actually, there's a dude named Eshawn Burgundy.
Yeah. I'll listen to him for sure.
Eshawn reached out to Chance and had a whole Bible study. And he was basically rebuking Chance. Chance had a line of a song. He was like, she loved how I make music for God. I love how she said she loved how I make the booty apply. Something crazy like that. Yeah. And Eshawn heard that and was like, let me reach out to the bro. As opposed to let me like condemn him publicly. He was like, let's connect with him.
That's so good.
Because Eshawn's in the culture. He realizes he's on a journey.
He's a brother. Yeah.
So he reaches out, they do a Bible study, and Chance is like, yo, I appreciate the knowledge. And I won't say that means like everything Chance makes from here on out is gonna be in a certain vein, but at least he had interaction with the bro in the faith to be like, hey, give me shape. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But you gotta be in the culture, not of it, but in it to actually know what's going on.
Absolutely. Because here's the thing, God gives us certain gifts, right? If you're like I mentioned last podcast, if you're the quarterback of the football team, infiltrate society in that way.
Come on.
Be a creator
But
in
that
way.
same thing though is like no one's gonna follow Jesus because you write John 3:16 on your helmet every game.
Yep.
They're gonna follow you if you are dope as a quarterback.
Absolutely.
Like my uncle,
if you don't perform,
he's dope.
You ain't gonna get the respect.
Well, and that's not to say that you have to be the best at anything, but it is to say don't go in with the mindset of I'm gonna do this. This is Paul, 1 Corinthians 10:31,
Okay.
where he's like, whether I eat or I drink or whatever I do, I do all to the glory of God.
Yeah.
So I give God my absolute best.
Yeah.
If I'm playing a game, if I'm just chilling, if I'm in my relationship, in my study, in my approach to everything, it should be with the lens of I'm glorifying God in this. And the way I bring God glory is to show that He's significant, He motivates me, He pushes me, and He's worth me standing on.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I preach in every single huddle.
Yeah.
It just means I'm playing the game my absolute best.
Yes.
And I recognize God has filled me to do it. And I recognize that I have an influence in light of how well I do it. And I'm going to use that for His glory.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Not being corny about it. Like Jesus does a lot of things in us. He doesn't make us corny. If you want to be corny, you corny, but don't make that Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because again, hitting on the gift aspect, that's there has to be an awareness of like, what can I offer the kingdom of God? Yeah. Like He doesn't say, here's a body, and He says it's a body. No, He says there's a hand, there's a feet.
Come on.
There's certain aspects of the body that has to have their specific role.
Yeah.
And I think it's our job and it's a process. I'm not saying we're going to figure this out now. I mean, with your book, you didn't just say one day, okay, boom, I got it. I'm here. It's written. Trust me, that was a process, wasn't it? Absolutely. So don't get bogged down in how like, man, okay, I'm the hand. All right, I need to do this. I need to do that. No, it's okay to not have it figured out.
Yeah.
It's okay to wrestle with music and should I play the guitar? Should I learn this? Right now, I'm trying to do some different things. I've been reading a little bit more, but also in this season, I've been trying to play the guitar, just simple things.
Yeah.
Like, just go for it.
But I think even to that point, right? Like just going for it is glorifying to God, right? Like just trying, like just doing. Yeah. Like, cause if
it's a faith aspect, right?
It's a faith aspect. Also is recognizing that the point is not me being great. The point is me connecting with God and sharing God. You know what I'm saying? Like my fulfillment does not come. I mean, so I had a chance to I've been fortunate to travel and share on stages and whatever.
Right.
And that's cool.
Right.
But I think COVID has taught a lot of us that that's not always going to be there. And if you're only living for that moment where you're on the stage in front of people, your life's going to get real hard when that's not a thing and that's not certain. As opposed to just really enjoying the process of creating. If no one else listens to my stuff, it's just a me and God thing, I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? I think I selfishly would love to share the things that I have.
For
I also think that, there's a giftedness that God grants us and an anointing that God places on us to go and share and infiltrate culture.
Yeah.
But if you are doing anything that is, you know what I'm saying, whether it's an art or a sport or however you're spending your time, it should be, hopefully, it's giving you life.
Yeah.
It's encouraging you. It's nourishing where you are. And it should connect you to the Father.
For sure.
If it's not doing that, then maybe you've placed the point as me succeeding.
Yeah.
And all the cares of the world and the whole, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As opposed to God's giving me life.
Misplaced identity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Man, that's so good. And all right, so this KB project real quick, man, I want to hear about this because he explicitly, because again, we talked about Justin Bieber, we talked about Kanye a little bit. That was a huge thing, so we won't get it, a couple months ago. We won't get into much now.
Sure.
But with this KB thing, man, he pulls worship music literally into his project. And I am vibing to it, man. Like I would, obviously it's a subjective feeling, I'm sure, something personal to me.
It connects.
But it connects. Yeah. So you have this guy that has been able to, like I said, literally put worship music into his music as a hip hop artist. So if you don't know who KB is, he is technically in the Christian hip hop industry. And he started out in Reach Records under Lecrae. Now he's with his
Sony.
With a new he's with Sony now,
which is a big move, by the way.
Big move.
Because for context, Christian hip hop started off super lame.
Yes.
It did.
Yes. Very,
Very lame.
very much so.
And I say lame as in my particular taste in
Right.
much of the culture.
Right.
But as it grew, like there were artists who were just so dope that even like labels like Columbia or Sony are looking at them and like, okay, we can get behind this.
Yeah.
Lecrae was a rarity.
Yeah.
But the fact that there are several artists now that have their own like kind of labels up under them, it's a sign that the church has done a good enough job, or at least followers of Jesus have done a good enough job of just being dope with the art.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure. Absolutely. So first of all, have you listened to the whole album
man.
yet?
Yeah.
What's your favorite? I'm interested to.
My favorite. I like Watch That Little Boy.
Okay.
It's
Watch
just
That
a
Little
vibe.
Boy.
It's so hard.
Yeah, I know. And his beats drop like,
That's
I
dope.
mean, they just drop so perfectly. And
Yeah.
man, he put out a teaser a couple months, no, not a couple, like at least 5 months ago of Let It Rain.
Yeah.
And I heard that, and he paused it. It ended the teaser right before the beat dropped.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh no!" He walked away from the mic. He's like, "Oh, I can't show you all the rest." And I was like, "KB, you can't do
Lame for
that
that,
to us,
cuz.
man. Come on."
Fight you for that, cuz.
Oh my gosh! So now it finally comes out, and that, man, Let It Rain. What's that other song? And there's 3 or 4 on there, man. That are
He's got some hits,
so
man.
good. Yeah,
He's got some hits.
But so you have a guy like that's been able to have this, who just signed with Sony, and his first project, needless to say, I didn't even think about this, with Sony, is the one where it has worship in it.
Yeah.
Man, and I think that is I guess you can call it a win. But at the end of the day, it's just cool to see.
It's cool to see. I also feel like with him, he's an interesting case.
Yeah.
Because he's not really like a Lecrae. Lecrae's vibe is almost an intentional, I want to be a part of the culture, I want to be a part of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
and his goal and his method, you can debate if you like it or not.
Yeah.
But his goal at least seems to be, I'm gonna do this so that, people can vibe with my music and then hopefully connect with God.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really KB's approach.
Yeah.
KB blatantly says in an interview, he was like, I make trap worship. It's not like, it's not for you to connect with and like maybe like the music and maybe looking to God later. It's like, this is blatantly a window into my worship, which is different. It's like, this is like how the dude is built. Like he's just built to worship God. Yeah. And his culture comes into that, right? It's not like I'm going to bring worship into culture. It's my culture's coming into my worship, which is a whole different way of thinking of it. Like it's his glory first, and it's this whole thing, his glory alone.
Yeah,
his glory. Yeah, it's his glory first, and then my culture has to catch up to that. Yeah. And we have a weird thing with the maturity within culture at large, and you listen to this, you may think of it the same way, that we think of worship as an acoustic guitar. It's a fog machine. It's light. You know what I'm saying?
Lights, yep.
And anything outside of that is not worship. So like hip hop's not worship. Pop music or the kind of techno vibe is not worship. Yeah. And we limit what we actually offer to God because we think it has to look a certain way. KB has no acoustic guitar that I know of in the album, but it's blatantly a worship album. I mean, sure. Kanye went out and said with the whole Jesus King album, he was like, this is a gospel worship album. It's a whole project. Yeah. And whether you loved it or hated it, it was very clear that this dude is young in his faith. He's trying to figure it out, but he's trying to worship. Like he's trying to go somewhere with this. Yeah. I think for us as followers of Jesus, we got to stop putting limits on what worship looks like.
Wow. And not box it in.
Not box it in, man. I can't play acoustic. Like, ain't my job.
Yeah. And I'm learning, and I'm barely trucking along.
But you can't wait to worship God until you know how to play like the 4 chords of Christian music. You know what I'm saying?
Come on.
So all that being said, however you get down, like God wants your heart, He wants your life. That whole Romans 12 thing is like He's after a whole like living sacrifice of you. So yeah, you ain't got to play acoustic guitar. But if you whatever you vibe to, recognize that that's a way in which you can actually interact with God, interact with the Father.
Well, man, as we close up, man, unfortunately, I could do this forever. I love this talk.
Come on.
Real quick, dude, tell the audience, the listeners, man, about your book, your new project coming out. Sure. Just give them a little sneak peek into it, if you will. And,
So Jesus says in Matthew 11, talking about the kingdom, he's like, the kingdom is basically like a bunch of kids hanging out in the market, and they start singing happy songs. Nobody dances to it. They start singing a funeral song called a dirge, and nobody sings a mourning, or nobody cries out and laments with them. he's basically saying that, the kingdom is the church when the church knows how to sing and dance with those who are celebrating and being excited about what's happening in culture. But it's also the church when the church knows how to mourn and lament with people who are broken and are upset and are protesting and are crying out for justice. And so in light of all the crazy stuff that's been happening in our culture with racial tension and weird political ideologies going crazy, I wanted to offer just a little bit of perspective through the lens of art. Not an argument, just my experience with lamenting, with crying out to God, with figuring out where I fit as a Black dude, as an artist, as a follower of Jesus, and how God's hands seem big enough to hold all that stuff, even though sometimes the spaces I interact with don't always invite me to be as real as I am. So yeah, the project is just a bunch of poems that are, joys, some fun stuff in there, and just some bars that are kind of getting behind my idea that, God wants all of who I am. And a lot of this brokenness that we see in our culture with the whole racial divide is really a cry out for the kingdom of God. There's a cry out for unity that comes only through the body of Christ. So it's a dope little project. It's called We Sang a Dirge, kind of copying that line off of Jesus. And yeah, hoping it's helpful.
When does it come out?
You can pre-order that junk now.
Okay. Pre-order.
You heard?
You heard?
And then it actually drops December.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, man.
Man, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that book.
Yo, shameless plug just happened today. So we had a couple of artists.
Okay.
And just speakers or whatever.
Okay.
That was like, hey, we gonna jump on help them push the book or whatever. So we got some other poets that are gonna be sharing different poems from the book.
Okay.
My boy Ezekiel, Genetics, Bob Goff.
Come
just
on.
different homies are just it's a whole vibe, bro.
That's awesome, man. I'm proud and I'm excited for you, dude. That's so cool, man. Because you've got a heart for the Lord, man. That is unique, and in a way that you've been aware of this gift that you have, and being able to portray it in this way, special. It's special. So I'm looking forward to it. Lo, thank you so much for being here today. This conversation, I hope, has blessed you guys. I hope this has been something that resonates with you. And again, real quick, send your questions in. What do you have for us? I will put the number on the screen. I will put the email. Email me. Shoot me a text. I will respond. I'm excited to have conversation with you guys. Thank you guys for listening in. We're excited to be here. Again, Lo, amazing, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You guys have a great one. We'll see you next episode.